It's no exaggeration to say it's hard to enjoy a trip to a restaurant in South Korea right now as the cost of dining out soars. And the high inflation is clearly hitting the pockets of busy workers who are seeing increases reflected at their lunch and dinner tables. For more on this, we turn to Professor Kim Sei-wan from Ewha Womans University. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
So for many workers here in South Korea, including myself, it's not always easy to cook at home and eat at home, so instead they eat out. But dining out hasn't been the most affordable option recently. Why is that, and how long will this unwelcome rise last?
I pretty much agree with you. I personally saw that price of jjajangmyeon increased up to 7,000 won level from previous 6,000 won in a month. The overall price level measured by Consumer Price Index is continuously declining from July last year, where inflation per year exceeded 6%. But last month's inflation per year came down to 4.8%. However, to most people, declining price is not realistic because higher restaurant prices became another big burden of inflation. According to Bank of Korea, restaurant prices increased by over 10% in February compared to the same month last year. Since the skyrocketed agricultural product prices last year in wheat, corn, cooking oil, and so on are reflected this year's restaurant prices, we can expect that the eating out price will be stabilized around the end of this year.
Okay, it's the so-called domino effect affecting each other. Right. And also you mentioned consumer prices rose 4.8% last month from a year earlier. Do you expect consumer prices to continue to go up this month? And well, you said until the end of the year, but what's your forecast for now?
Well, that is a tough question because there are still lots of uncertainties ahead of domestic inflation, like the war in Ukraine, abnormal temperature, oil production cut by oil-producing countries, and so on. But I would say inflation momentum gets weaker as time goes by under the assumption that electric power and gas prices are not raised much by government. For forecasting future general price changes, we take a look at the core inflation, which excludes food and oil items. The core inflation is stabilizing quickly, less than 5% per year, thanks to weaker demands in declining economy. So we can expect that overall price level will be stabilized by the end of this year. But again, I have to say that there are lots of uncertainties ahead of future inflation in geopolitical factors and agricultural production factors.
Right, rather gloomy outlook for the rest of the year. But what are some of the factors that we have to pay attention that will actually calm the high inflation? Some of the factors that we have to pay extra attention to?
It is highly expected that domestic inflation would be declining continuously until the end of this year if all other factors are equal. As we talked about, the most recent inflation in February is 4.8%. But it is still more than doubles Bank of Korea's inflation target of 2%. This high inflation will approach 2% level by the end of this year, hopefully. The largest reason for declining inflation is, of course, economic downturn for this year. Last year's economic growth was about 2.5%, but this year's economic growth would be cut down to 1.5% level. It means that households and corporations need less goods and services, and it lessens the higher price pressure. Also, international oil price and agricultural price will be more stabilized this year, and it will be additional factor that stabilize domestic inflation.
Right. All right, Professor Kim, thank you so much for your time this morning, as always.
Thank you for having me today.